Hello everyone and welcome all of you. This is our second lecture. In our last lecture we had already explained Rutherford scattering experiment. In this lecture I will going to explain electron orbit and Bohr's postulate. First, electron orbit. We know that everyone the structure of an atom is consist of nucleus and electron is revolving around the nucleus. Rutherford model confirms model of an atom. According to him, an atom is tiny, massive and positively charged nucleus surrounded by electrons at relatively great distance. To make an atom is electrically neutral as a whole. You know that the nucleus is made up of protons and neutrons. The protons have positive charge and neutron is electrically neutral. That's why the atom is electrically neutral as a whole. Consider in case of simple hydrogen atom for a single electron. In this case, the centripetal force required for rotations is provided by the electrostatic force of attraction between the positively charged nucleus and the negatively charged electrons. The centripetal force holding electron in an orbit of radius r is given by Fc is equal to mv square upon r, where m is the mass of the electron, v is the velocity and r is the radius. Similarly, the nucleus is provided by electrostatic force. We have to apply here Coulomb's law. There is force of attraction or repulsion between the positively charged proton having a positive charge plus C and the electron having negatively charged minus C. Therefore, by using Coulomb's law, the electrostatic force Fe is equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon 0 into E square upon R square. 1 upon 4 pi epsilon 0 is constant. Now, the condition for a stable dynamic orbit is the centripetal force that must be equal to electrostatic force. Therefore, I have write here Fc is equal to Fe. Now, equating these two equations, mv square upon r is equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon 0 into E square upon r square. Hence, now v is the related velocity to the orbital radius is, now rearranging this equation we will get the velocity v is equal to E upon square root of 4 pi epsilon 0 into m into r. Now we have to calculate the total energy of an hydrogen atom is the sum of kinetic energies and potential energy. You know that kinetic energy that must be equal to 1/2 mv square and potential energy is equal to minus E square upon 4 pi epsilon 0 r. Potential energy is negative. Therefore, the total energy is equal to kinetic energy plus potential energy. Therefore, E is equal to 1/2 mv square minus E square upon 4 pi epsilon 0 r. Now, substitute the value of V from the equation of kinetic energy and we will get the value of total energy of an hydrogen atom. Therefore, E is equal to E square upon 4 pi epsilon 0 r minus E square upon 4 pi epsilon 0 r. Therefore, the total energy of an hydrogen atom is E is equal to minus E square upon 8 pi epsilon 0 r. Hence, this equation shows that the total energy of an hydrogen atom is negative. This holds true for every atomic electron and reflects the fact that it is bound that to the nucleus. If E is greater than 0, an electron would not follow a closed orbit around the nucleus. Now, I have going to explain the new topic, Bohr atom. This Bohr's theory is very important because it eliminates the very important drawbacks of Rutherford atomic model. According to Rutherford, there is Rutherford does not explain the distribution of electrons, but Bohr eliminate these drawbacks of Rutherford model. Bohr distribute the electrons in various shells or subshells. Now, the hydrogen atom theory proposed by Niels Bohr in 1913 marked the beginning of new era in atomic structure and spectroscopy. And Bohr's theory also provided the satisfactory explanation for the Balmer series, Lyman, Paschen and Brackett series of an hydrogen atom and the Pickering series of ionized helium atom. Bohr modified the Rutherford's model by using the Planck's quantum theory of radiation. According to this theory, energy is radiated or absorbed in a whole multiples of an elementary quantum of energy that must be equal to E is equal to h nu, where nu is the frequency of emitted or absorbed radiation and h is Planck's constant and having value is 6.634 into 10 raised to minus 34 joule second. Now we have to discuss here Bohr's theory based on following three postulates. Now the first postulate is that Bohr's first assumption was that an electron revolves in certain allowed circular orbits about the nucleus under the action of an Coulomb's force. The force of attraction between the electron of charge E and the nucleus of charge ZE is given by Fe is equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon 0 into ZE square upon R square, where Z is the atomic number. For a hydrogen atom, Z is equal to 1. Atomic number of hydrogen is 1 and epsilon 0 is the permittivity of free space. Now, the centripetal force is used to require the rotations provided by an electrostatic force of attraction. Now, the centripetal force Fc is equal to mv square upon r. Now, equating these two equations, mv square upon r is equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon 0 into z square upon r square. Now, we will get here the value of v square is equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon 0 into z square upon mr. Now, this will write here equation 1, 2. We have to use this equation in a next slide. The second postulate, suppose here I have drawn here one diagram. Suppose whatever the any species having mass m, its radius is r and is moving with along the tangent, its velocity is v. Now we have to write here there is angular momentum. Angular momentum is a vector quantity. It is quietly similar to linear momentum. Okay. Now Bohr's second assumption for the hydrogen atom may be stated as only those circular orbits for electrons are permitted for which the angular momentum L bar is equal to the integral multiple of h upon 2 pi. Now the L bar is equal to n into h upon 2 pi. Values of angular momentum that must be integral multiple of h upon 2 pi, where n is an integer and having value is 1, 2, 3. Means the value of angular momentum is always 1h upon 2 pi, 2h upon 2 pi. Means never the value of angular momentum is an odd integral 0.5h by 2 pi or 2.5h by 2 pi. Means the value of an angular momentum is always an integral multiple of h upon 2 pi. Now the orbital angular momentum of an electron is given by L is equal to m into v into r, where v is the velocity of an electron in an orbit. Equating these two equations, mvr is equal to n into h upon 2 pi. This will get the equations of second postulate. Now I will go into discuss here Bohr's third postulate. Now here from this figure, this is the electron orbit. The this is the n is equal to 1, n is equal to 2 and n is equal to 3, the orbit number, and here the photon having energy is h nu. Now the third postulate is that a quantum of energy is radiated only when an electron jumps from higher energy orbit to the lower energy orbit, and the frequency of emitted radiation is proportional to the difference between two energy states. Means the difference between the higher energy orbit to the lower energy orbit. Suppose n is equal to 1 having energy E1 and n is equal to 2 having energy E2, means the energy difference between E2 minus E1, this energy that must be equal to the one photon having energy h nu. Now E1 and E2 are the initial and final states of energy, means when the electron orbits having energy does not change when we have to add or remove the energy. When we have to add the energy, then electron jumps from lower energy states to higher energy states, and when we have to remove the energy from this orbit, then electron jumps from higher energy orbit to the lower energy orbit. Where from this equation, from the last equation of first postulate, mv square upon r is equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon 0 into Jd square upon r square. Now this r get cancelled here. Mv square is equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon 0 into Jd square upon r. Therefore multiply m on both sides and we will get the equation m square v square is equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon 0 into Jd square m upon r. From the equation of second postulate, the equation is that mvr is equal to n into h upon 2 pi. This r get denominator from this equation. We will get the value of mv is equal to n upon r into h upon 2 pi. Now squaring this equation, m square v square is equal to n square upon r square into h square upon 4 pi square. From this equation we will get the value of r. R is equal to epsilon 0 n square h square upon pi me square z. Now for then z is the atomic number. For a hydrogen atom z is equal to 1. So we will get the radius of nth Bohr orbit, and Rn is equal to epsilon 0 n square h square upon pi me square. From this equation we conclude that the Rn, radius of nth Bohr orbit, is directly proportional to the principal quantum number n. Rn is directly proportional to n square, where n is equal to 1, 2, 3 and so on. Now the radii of Bohr orbit are proportional to the square of natural numbers. The radii of Bohr orbits is proportional to the square of natural numbers. The radius of first orbit is n is equal to 1. Now R1 is equal to 0.53 into 10 raised to minus 10 meter. 10 raised to minus 10 meter means 1 angstrom. That's why I have to write here 0.53 angstrom. From this equation, the velocity of an electron in the nth orbit is given by Vn is equal to E square upon twice epsilon 0 n into h. The kinetic energy of an electron in the nth orbit will be T is equal to 1/2 m Vn square. We have to put the value of Vn from this equation. Now T is equal to me raised to 4 upon 8 epsilon 0 square n square h square. We will get here the value of kinetic energy. Now we have to calculate the potential energy. The potential energy of an electron in the nth orbit when it is at a distance r from the nucleus is measured by the work done in the moving electron from a distance 0 to infinity. The potential energy is indicated by a capital letter U is equal to integration of 0 to infinity F into dr is nothing but the work done, where F is the Coulomb's electrostatic force given by last equation. From above equation, we have to put the value of F into dr. Therefore, U is equal to minus me square upon 4 epsilon 0 square n square h square. Now, we have to calculate the total energy of an hydrogen atom for a nth orbit is the sum of kinetic energies plus potential energy. Now, En is the total energy of an electron in the nth orbit. En is equal to kinetic energy T plus potential energy U. Therefore, En is equal to minus m raised to 4 upon 8 epsilon 0 square n square h square, where En is the total energy of an electron in the nth orbit. From this equation, we conclude that En is inversely proportional to n square. For the first orbit, n is equal to 1. Substituting the value of in equation, we get means m is the mass of electron, E is the charge of the electron, epsilon 0 is the permittivity in free space, n is the orbit number, n is equal to 1, 2, 3 and so on, and h is Planck's constant. Now we have to put all these value from this equation. We will get the value of energy from E1, E2 and E3. E1 is equal to minus 2.18 into 10 raised to minus 8 joule. Now, dividing this equation, we have to convert this term into electron volt. How this is possible? Now, divide this value from 1.6 into 10 raised to minus 19 coulomb. Then, we will get the value of E1 is equal to minus 13.6 electron volt. The energy of an electron in the first orbit is E1 is equal to minus 13.6 upon n square electron volt. We will get here we have to put the value of n is equal to 2. We will get the value of E2. This equation indicates that the total energy of an electron increases as it goes away from the nucleus. Now, origin of line spectra. In a third postulate, I will already explain here, when there is transition of an electron from higher energy of an orbit to the lower energy orbit, a photon of energy h nu is emitted. Means this orbit number 1, 2, 3, the orbit n is equal to 1 having energy E1, suppose Em and n is equal to 2 having energy Em, means the value of En minus Em, that must be energy radiated by one photon, where En is the energy of an electron in the nth orbit and Em is the energy of an electron in the mth orbit. From these two equations, h nu is equal to minus m raised to 4 upon 8 epsilon 0 square n square h square minus m raised to 4 upon 8 epsilon 0 square m square h square. The orbit is changed, therefore here I will write n, and this is the mth orbit. This one is the nth orbit and this one is the mth orbit, otherwise it is same. Then h is get denominator. Now nu is equal to minus m raised to 4 upon 8 epsilon 0 square h cube into 1 upon m square minus 1 upon n square. Now you know that everyone this equation is remembered, all of you. C is equal to nu lambda, where C is the speed of light and lambda is the wavelength of spectral line. Now C is equal to nu lambda. From this equation, 1 upon lambda is equal to minus m raised to 4 upon 8 epsilon 0 square ch cube into 1 upon m square minus 1 upon n square. The quantity C upon lambda is equal to nu bar and it is called as the wave number. Therefore, nu bar is equal to R into 1 upon m square minus 1 upon n square. R is the Rydberg constant and having value is m raised to 4 upon 8 epsilon 0 square ch cube. Now we will get the value of R is equal to 1.097 into 10 raised to 7 per meter. Okay. Thank you.